Stop everything you are doing and pay attention to what I am about to tell you now. Have you ever noticed how sometimes when you just step back a little, she starts moving closer as if something invisible is pulling her toward you? It's fascinating how instead of persisting or chasing, the simple act of creating distance can awaken an interest that seemed dormant. There is a reason for this, and it is connected to something much deeper than games or seduction tactics. What lies beneath is how the brain interprets withdrawal, freedom, and mystery. Let us now enter a field that few truly explore: the emotional logic behind attraction. Here silence can speak louder than any words. Distance, incredibly enough, can be a more effective trigger than constant presence. The man who has the courage to step away ends up activating areas of female interest that remain dormant when everything is easy, guaranteed, or predictable. In this content you'll understand the 12 real reasons that lead a woman to become interested in a man precisely when he chooses to let her go. We're not talking about ready-made phrases or cheap tricks, but rather behaviors and attitudes that truly affect desire, respect, and emotional interest. When you understand this, you'll realize that often it's not how much you chase that attracts, but how well you know how to position yourself. So prepare yourself, because what follows next can change how you view the dynamic between interest and withdrawal. And go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. By doing this, you help the message reach more men who need to escape this zone of emotional confusion, and leave in the comments what city you re-watching from. I want to know how far this content is reaching. Let us get straight to the point. The first reason is that withdrawal becomes a blank canvas where she paints the best version of you. When you disappear, leave the radar, stop responding as before, or simply live your life without insisting, you create a space, and this space isn't empty, it gets filled by her imagination. The human mind hates gaps, and what it doesn't see, it begins to complete with memories, feelings, and idealizations. At this moment, longing comes into action, and longing has a very particular characteristic. It's not objective, it chooses what to remember. So qualities gain prominence, flaws are erased or softened, and what was real becomes something more beautiful, more interesting, more intense. She begins to remember good moments, conversations, sensations, and all of this starts to seem better than it actually was. This activates in her a desire to relive what in her mind remained incomplete or could have been better. Distance transforms you into someone more interesting than you perhaps were when you were there all the time. And the most curious thing is that this new image she creates can provoke in her a renewed desire, a wish to have back what she herself idealized. And if you're tired of being ignored or treated as if you were disposable, that is where the turnaround lies. In the first comment of this video, there is a complete guide that shows exactly how to turn this game around, how to make her chase and start seeing your real value. Check it out later. Let us move to the second reason. When you let go, you show that you have alternatives, and this says a lot about your value. A man who doesn't insist, who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't try to force something with someone who doesn't value him, is silently saying, I have choices. And this message, even if implicit, has a direct impact on how she begins to see you. You make it clear that you're not available for any crumbs, that you're not sitting around waiting for an opportunity. This puts you in a different position from most. A man who knows how to value himself generates curiosity and respect, and this is a type of attraction that cannot be forced. It happens naturally when the woman realizes you're not there out of neediness, but by choice. She begins to wonder who else has their eye on you. She starts to feel that maybe you're being competed for, even if this isn't actually happening. And this thought alone can awaken a type of desire in her that was dormant, wanting to secure someone who's no longer so accessible. The lack of neediness transmits power, and this power changes the balance of the game. Now let us move to the third reason. She might be used to controlling everything, and your withdrawal breaks this pattern. In many cases, especially at the beginning of a connection between two people, the woman ends up controlling the pace without realizing it. This happens because the man, afraid of losing or seeming indifferent, gives too much of himself. He responds to everything quickly, gives into everything, is always available, and with this loses unpredictability. But when you change the pattern and decide to step away, stop insisting, or simply live your life, she feels she has lost control of the situation, and this generates internal discomfort. She finds herself facing something she didn't expect. Your absence becomes an enigma. The question "why did he disappear" starts occupying space in her head. This can be the beginning of a change in attitude. She begins to reevaluate her own actions, starts to see you as someone who doesn't play by the rules she was accustomed to. And this is exactly what can turn the game around. When you position yourself differently than she expected, she is forced to leave autopilot and pay attention. At this moment you no longer predictable, you interesting. Asterisk, in many relationships, it is common for the woman to assume, consciously or not, the role of the one who leads. She dictates the pace, decides when and how things advance. This control gives her emotional security and a sense of dominion over the situation. But when the man chooses to exit the scene, this balance changes. Control changes hands, and this can provoke immediate bewilderment in her. She realizes something went off script. The automatic reaction of always having control, of knowing what will happen, no longer works. And this change causes impact. The sensation of being faced with someone who doesn't respond like others affects the mind. This can lead her to question her own behavior and think about why this time it was she who determined the course of the story. This type of disruption awakens curiosity, discomfort, and at the same time, a renewed desire to understand and perhaps even regain control of the situation. And it is precisely this break-in pattern that can rekindle interest. What was predictable has now become a mystery, and the man who seemed like just another one stands out by acting differently. And this leads us to the fourth point. Rejection, even subtle, hurts pride. When a man steps away, even without doing it offensively or directly, there is an emotional reading of the gesture. Often, the woman understands this withdrawal as a type of refusal. This happens even when she was the one who distanced herself before, or when she didn't show much interest initially. The fact that he doesn't react by trying to win her back can be read as he doesn't want me, and this thought can hit her pride head-on, wound the ego, because in many cases what is at stake isn't the feeling for him, but the need to feel desired, validated, important. When this validation disappears, the mind goes into action trying to restore balance, and the emotional path she follows, almost without realizing, is to seek back the attention of that man who didn't bind himself to her. It's as if suddenly she wanted to prove to herself, including, that she is still capable of making that man return, that she still has seductive power, that he made a mistake by stepping away. This impulse can be strong enough to make her reconsider her attitudes, rethink feelings, and approach again, all in search of a kind of emotional repair. Asterisk, let us move to the fifth reason. There exists indeed in many women an unconscious desire to be the only one who succeeded, the fantasy of being the exception. The one who conquered precisely the man that no one can tie down. An authentic man, who seems to be fine alone, who doesn't bow to others' wishes, usually awakens this desire for conquest even more intensely. This type of man transmits challenge, and challenge for many people is what keeps interest burning. When a man demonstrates that he has autonomy, that he doesn't depend on female validation to feel complete, he automatically rises in level on the attraction radar. He is not just a potential partner, he is a rare prize. The woman then begins to nurture the desire to be the one who achieves something others couldn't. This affects the ego, self-esteem, and transforms the conquest into an objective full of emotional meaning. More than liking him, she wants to overcome the barrier he represents. She wants to be remembered as the one who made the improbable happen. Asterisk, this leads us to the sixth point. When the man releases the rope, he reveals self-control, and this self-control is almost always read as a sign of maturity. Different from the impulse of someone who needs to resolve everything now, he shows he knows how to wait, that he understands his own value and won't despair over something that is not in his hands. This serenity doesn't go unnoticed. She looks at him and sees someone who knows how to behave under pressure, who doesn't act on impulse, who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't change personality to please. And this transmits an image of stability. It is as if there existed an emotional anchor there, someone who, even when everything rocks, remains firm, centered, and self-possessed. This type of posture in her mind associates with someone who is reliable, someone who is ready to deal with challenges, to lead with balance and presence. The type of person who inspires confidence and naturally becomes more desirable. Emotional control is silent but profoundly attractive. Asterisk, and now we enter the seventh reason. When the man doesn't react as she expects, she begins to reevaluate her own value. What before was a certainty that he would always be around, attentive and available, disappears. And this creates a gap. She begins to ask herself why he is no longer there. Wasn't she enough? Did she lose his interest? Did she do something wrong? These questions activate self-criticism, and from there the game changes. Instead of focusing on his flaws, she starts analyzing what she herself might have done or failed to do. This new perspective can make her review attitudes, realize where she didn't value what she had, and see the distant man with different eyes. She starts looking at him with different eyes. The absence of attachment, the freedom he demonstrates, can be read as a clear sign that he has options, that his life doesn't revolve around a single relationship, and this, contrary to what many think, doesn't make him less desirable. On the contrary, this emotional independence is usually extremely attractive. Asterisk, when a man shows he can move forward, that he is willing to give up a connection if it is not mutual and respectful, he transmits silent strength. This posture creates a curious effect on the woman. She begins to wonder why he is not trying to hold on to her. Has he already found someone better? Did she lose her chance with someone truly special? These questions alone are sufficient to affect the ego and activate the competitive instinct. Even if she is not sure about what she feels, the idea that he might be giving attention to another person, that he is available to the world and not exclusively to her, lights an internal alert. The woman, in this context, may feel she needs to stand out, reconquer the space that was once hers, be noticed again, and that is where the desire to approach is born, not out of necessity, but out of challenge. The idea of being the woman who catches the attention of someone who doesn't surrender easily, who doesn't bind himself to just anyone, becomes an emotionally stimulating mission. The withdrawal, far from being the end, ends up becoming the trigger for a reapproach full of desire and initiative coming from her. Asterisk, let us move to the 11th reason. When the man lets go, he breaks the cycle of emotional dependence. In many relationships, even the most recent ones, a pattern can emerge where one of the two gets used to having the other always available, always ready to give in, to return, to insist. This pattern, over time, loses the force of attraction, because what is too predictable stops being valued. By not binding himself, by not insisting, the man breaks this cycle. He interrupts the known game and introduces a new script, where he shows he is fine with himself and doesn't need the relationship to feel whole, and this changes everything. This break in expectation can lead the woman to realize that that man who seems so devoted, so available, now walks on his own. This image of someone who found stability outside the relationship, who chooses to continue without resentments, generates curiosity and, at the same time, respect. Not just anyone can do this authentically, and this respect can be the first step toward a new type of attraction, a feeling that is no longer born from necessity, but from admiration. The woman may begin to see this man as someone who has a rich life, who knows what he wants, and who doesn't let himself be shaken by the absence of reciprocity. And this image is much more attractive than that of someone who begs for attention. And we arrive at the 12th reason. Absence opens space for imagination. When the man lets go, he stops feeding the common routine, the predictable conversations, the repetitive behaviors. And in this silence, in this void left by absence, the woman's mind begins to fill the spaces. And what fills this space isn't reality, it is what she imagines. She begins to think about what he is doing, who he is going out with, what he is feeling. She imagines conversations, encounters, possibilities. This freedom to create mental scenarios is very powerful, because often the mind creates something even more interesting than what actually existed, and this is how idealization emerges. In this space of absence, where the man isn't present, to contradict with words or actions, she can remember the best moments, the most striking qualities, the most intense sensations. The mind doesn't like gaps, it fills them, and this filling can be much more favorable than any attempt at direct convincing. When he lets go, he doesn't disappear, he makes a mark, and this mark remains present in thoughts, assumptions, and sensations that return unexpectedly. And when she least expects it, what seemed resolved returns with force, reigniting desire, interest, and even deeper feeling. Asterisk, picture this scenario. You meet her, everything flows smoothly. Her laughter finds your rhythm. Conversation dances, with lightness, but something is missing. She doesn't touch you with her gaze. You become the confidant, the nice guy, the one she respects but doesn't desire. You feel this like a cut. Something failed, not in words, not in gestures, but in the invisible realm. While other men make her desire boil, you read the safe silence and therefore forgotten, and then you seek explanations. Maybe you re not attractive, maybe not tall enough, maybe you need to be even kinder. All wrong. Her desire doesn't originate where you think. It doesn't respond to logic, doesn't activate with comfort. It burns in risk, in presence that doesn't ask permission. Most men live trapped in the fundamental error. They think security equals attraction, that being sweet suffices, that listening will awaken her. But female attraction is a code, and codes aren't broken with kindness. What awakens her desire lives below consciousness, a battlefield between what she says she wants and what her body craves. Today you'll see this battlefield. Understand why she desires those who threaten balance. Discover why your sweetness makes her sleep and why the right presence makes her delirious. Not because you learn to play games, but because you stop begging. These codes weren't taught because the truth about female desire doesn't fit polite discourse. It's raw, biological, visceral, hidden beneath layers of morality, culture, and fear. But it exists, and if you don't comprehend it, you'll eternally be the friend who listens, never the man she desires. You must accept this. The attributes that make her feel safe are almost always the same ones that leave her indifferent. Predictability, availability, patience, all important, but none make her body tremble. Tension births from contrast. Yes, she wants to feel secure, but her desire screams for risk, for someone who unbalances her, who enters the room with presence, who doesn't ask for space, but takes it. Excitement doesn't birth from logic, it births from symbolic threat, from certainty that you can be both fire and shelter. And most men fail miserably here. They choose one role, either too sweet and become emotional cushions, or too intense and become threats. She doesn't want one or the other, she wants both in the right dose. At the right moment. Do you still believe emotional connection generates automatic desire? Wake up, she can love you and still dream of another at night, can trust you and desire the stranger she exchanged glances with for 30 seconds. This is the paradox. She clearly separates the man who understands her from the man who drives her wild. If you don't master both, you'll lose both. And worse, you'll keep thinking. The problem is your body, voice, or style, but the real error lies in your energy, in the man you were trained not to be. Want to know what truly makes a man irresistible? It's not the body, not the face, it's the brutal tranquility of someone who doesn't need approval. The man who doesn't ask permission to feel desire. The man who doesn't apologize for his own energy. Sexual confidence isn't about noise, it's about presence. It's when your body communicates I know what I want and your soul says but I don't need you to validate me. This is what ignites fire, emotional independence, absence of hunger. Because the man who doesn't fear rejection is the most dangerous of all. He doesn't force, doesn't beg, he proposes. And if she retreats, he smiles because he knows the game doesn't end there. The majority's mistake. They tremble before even touching. They wait for clear signals, shouted consent, absolute guarantees. But desire doesn't move in that field. It lives in the space between touch and withdrawal, between the burning gaze and respectful silence. Tension births in this interval, and the few who know how to inhabit this space become memorable forever. It's not about advancing fast. It's not about advancing with reading, with dignity, with calm firmness. It's one step, one silence, one invitation. And when she feels you desire her but need her, the game changes, atmosphere weighs, air shifts, her body responds because it finally found someone who desires her as a woman but respects her as a goddess. She needs to feel you before even touching her. Feel your presence as a vibration that alters the environment. You don't need to be big, you need to be whole. Sustaining gaze, movement that doesn't ask permission, space you occupy naturally, not with apologies. This is how she feels it, not in body, but in atmosphere. You don't impose, you provoke. You approach enough to create tension, and then you stop, because the game isn't about speed, it is about anticipation. Subtle touches, approaches that don't invade, merely suggest one gesture, one slip, one pause. Everything depends on reading. If she advances with eyes, you invite with touch. If she retreats with body, you withdraw with elegance. Confidence, aggression, clarity, knowing what you're redoing and why. Asterisk the most attractive men dan T force. They build step by step, like dancing with time, and meanwhile she imagines, projects, fills spaces with desires you only hinted at, because you dan T deliver everything. You plant images, whisper possibilities, create mental scenarios she revisits when alone. This is power, not the power to possess, but the power to remain in her mind even in silence, to make her body react to memories, not just touches. You dan T need to be explicit, you need to be unforgettable. Asterisk you dan T want her to understand you immediately. You want her to decipher you in parts, each part opening a new mystery. Many men's error is surrendering completely in the first act, everything revealed, exposed, predictable, and predictability kills desire. Her mind needs to work for you, needs to construct theories, imagine scenes, remember gestures. You plant silences, she fills with desire, and then emerges the real game, a game where you show yourself and withdraw, where presence is intense but absence strategic. You involve her deeply, then leave her drifting for hours. She misses you and her body responds, because desire docility births from touch, it births from anticipation. You create a tension when with her, but it's in absence that this tension multiplies. You create a moment that could become something more, but docility not yet. You suggest and retreat, and in this interval between what could happen and what hasn't yet happened, she desires you. This is territory where few men know how to play. The territory of almost, of unsaid, of waiting. It's not about promising, it's about provoking. Not about advancing, it is about leaving clues. You not being difficult, you being unforgettable, because her body might forget what it touched, but never forgets what it imagined. And didn't he have, asterisk she, docility, want a manual, she wants a mystery, one that involves her without explanation, one that provokes before touching. Here your communication becomes weapon. Double-meaning words, insinuations she can pretend not to understand, but that plant images, breathings, possibilities. You're not explicit, you're inevitable. Your speech comes from chest, not throat. You don't ask for permission. You attract her to the field where she feels she is choosing, but where everything was already designed by your presence. Voice is more than sound, it's rhythm, direction. She hears, but her body interprets. Asterisk sustained gaze, firm but never invasive. You observe as if you already knew, and silent knowing disturbs. She feels she is being read, and paradoxically this excites her. Not because you decipher her, but because you dan teabeg. You scarce, not because you're pretending, but because you have your own world that pulses, even when she is not there. A desired man isn't one who shouts his value, it's one who carries signs of being chosen by others without ever needing confirmation. Your sexual independence docent shout. It vibrates. It appears in your gestures, in how you say no today, in how you move among other female presences without anxiety. You dan T need to prove anything, and therefore everything about you seems like proof. She notices. Asterisk being with you is a privilege that must be earned. You dan T offer yourself. You provoke the search. You a labyrinth, and she wants to get lost. You not predictable. You a labyrinth with unknown chambers. Take her to places she has never visited, not for tourism, for provocation. The unexpected generates sexual energy. Adventure becomes synonymous with your name. When she thinks of you, she feels vibration, not routine. You exist in layers, playful, then sudden, tense, mystery, clarity, variety that compels her to want to discover more. Women desire complexity. You the enigma they can decipher. If you always react the same, she navigates the code and loses interest. You become predictable, dead. Asterisk taking controlled risk, walking the edge, a daring project. An invitation that challenges this communicates courage and leadership, shows you dan T settle for trivial, declares you occupy the center of your own universe. You the one who decides to scale or retreat. She notices. This is the man who moves with purpose. Asterisk touch, gentle escalation, a gesture on the arm, on the back, an almost imperceptible slide during laughter, a whirlwind of contact. If she completes that touch by staying close, you continue. If she retreats, you respect. Each response is your map, each movement your voice. You dan T push, you coax. One touch and she gives more, one soft touch and she enters, one present touch and she remains, until she wants to touch you, without pressure, without urgency, just contained tension that explodes in desire for more. Asterisk, you don't escalate physical contact, you ritualize tension. Each touch isn't gesture, it's password, a silent invitation charged with energy and intention. But attention, touch without reciprocal desire, is noise. And noise doesn't seduce, it repels. The man who understands the game doesn't force. He observes. He notices when she approaches closer than needed, when she touches back without reason, when her eyes hesitate one more second. These are signals. Attraction doesn't shout, it whispers. And if she doesn't respond, it's not rejection. Diagnosis. You haven't yet generated the frequency. Return, refine, build emotional tension before physical, because the body only yields when the mind has already surrendered. Asterisk. Powerful intimacy births from brutal balance between vulnerability and strength. Show your internal world with contact, but never pour neediness. She wants depth, not emotional collapse. Well-managed emotion is aphrodisiac. Uncontrolled emotion is alarm. Relationships with real chemistry oscillate between two poles, intensity and security. Passion doesn't sustain in chaos, but also dies in tedium. Therefore, the man who seduces is the same who sustains, who provokes shivers and offers ground. You need to understand what she feels before she even says it. You respond, not with words, but with attunement. This subtle emotional intelligence isn't just rare, it's magnetic, and it's what keeps desire burning over time. Asterisk. Men's most common error. Thinking maintaining the woman means repeating what worked in the beginning. But attraction isn't static, it demands reinvention, constant mystery, renewed presence. A stagnant man becomes predictable, and predictability is desire, as poison. Everything you've learned here needs to transform into living practice, not manipulation techniques, but expression of refined masculinity. Attraction, isnt, mask, it's identity. She wants to feel you a man, even when nobody is watching. Asterisk. And remember, desire without respect is disguised violence. All real seduction begins with reverence. The woman, the moment, the truth between you two, because if you don't honor, you don't deserve. The most desired men aren't those who try techniques. They those who personify attention. Don't beg, don't invade. They create a field, a space where the woman's body feels it can flourish and burn. Asterisk. Being sexually assertive, isnt advancing it, knowing when to stop it, transforming each gesture into an invitation with reverence. The man who masters the game doesn't force intimacy. He listens with eyes, observes skin that bristles, pulse that accelerates, silence that prolongs. She says yes before any word, and he understands. Asterisk. You don't just want to seem attractive. You want to become the one her body chooses before her mind, the one she desires when she's not looking. This isnt conquered with performance, it's conquered with presence. Forget false signals. Kindness isnt desire. Politeness isnt arousal. Desperate men confuse smiles with invitations, but the awakened man knows. The female body reveals what her voice doesn't yet dare say. Hot skin, dilated pupils, interrupted breathing. She approaches and doesn't retreat. Her touch has intention. Gaze doesn't divert. Conversation sinks into intimate territory. These are signals, keys, and you need to read them with surgical precision. But if you withdraw, honor, because the true seducer doesn't step on the limit. He dances with it. He knows nothing is sexier than feeling safe. Nothing excites more than being deeply respected. Asterisk. During touch, she guides you without words. Body responds, gesture returns. You adapt, you feel, you entirely there, not as hunter but as alchemist, converting signals into mutual pleasure. This is the difference. Men she forgets wanted to prove themselves. The man she can forget just wanted to feel together. The man she truly desires isn't one who hides the game. It is one who burns clean, who looks in eyes and says calmly, yes, I want you, and then falls silent, not from weakness, but from sovereignty. Sexual transparency is the blade separating boys from men, the deceptive pretend friendship while waiting for opening. The awakened make clear, desire isn't disrespected honest presence. And this presence, when clean, ignites more than any technique. Asterisk. Want to be remembered. Then don't hide what burns. Say it, but say it with elegance. Say it with firmness. Of one who doesn't fear no, because the man who knows how to hear no without bowing becomes the only one she trusts to say yes to. But intention isn't enough, it's listening that seals the ritual. The dangerous man, the one she desires with her whole body, isn't the one who talks much, it's the one who listens to the whisper of her breathing, who feels where touch awakens, where she tenses, where she surrenders, without saying a word. This listening isn't just technique, it's reverence. You observe her, study her like deciphering an ancient language, and in each of your gestures, she feels, this man doesn't just want the body, he wants the truth of my desire. Transparency without presence is disguised neediness. Presence without listening is arrogance and alpha skin. But when you unite both, clarity and containment, you become ritual, you become territory, you become altar, and she feels, responds, trusts, because she finally found someone who doesn't play, doesn't force, doesn't plead, just vibrates an energy so clear, so authentic, that everything in her wants to open, burn, surrender. You need to memorize techniques, you need to embody a code. It's not about manipulating, it's about pulsing a presence she feels before even understanding. If UVA made it this far, UVA already intuited. Either you mold your masculine energy, or you'll be molded by its absence. Who doesn't ignite, extinguishes. Who doesn't occupy, evaporates. The man who awakens desire doesn't convince, he summons with the gaze that wounds, with the calm that dominates, with the silence that tears. He doesn't force, he provokes, he doesn't please, he chooses, he doesn't chase, he walks firm and the world moves around him. You carry the scalpel cut what dead, you in the labyrinth now. And here who hesitates returns to bleeding, who tries to seem masculine drowns in their own performance, but who becomes turns into portal. Comment. I command without saying anything. This is your seal, your mirror, your crossing. You don't need to hear me. You need to hear what whispers inside you when all voices fall silent. And when everything silences, remember, you're not here to be likable, you're here to be magnetic. If you've endured this far, you can handle what comes next. See you in the next labyrinth, in silence.